You're listening to America First with Dr. G.
You know what one of the coolest things is about having a national radio show that streams as well on YouTube, available on Rumble, wherever you get your podcasts, is when I find somebody who's really interesting, who grabs my attention, whose podcasts I download, whose interviews I watch. I get to share them with you. If they agree to come on, and they always do, and today I'm super excited. I was on his incredible show just a few days ago. He's Dr. Steve Turley. You've got to check him out, turleytalks.com. A man who I sympathize with because, you know, he took the best education there is. He went to the UK. He studied theology and philosophy like somebody else did. And he's a super smart dude. Follow this guy at turleytalks.com. Dr. Turley, welcome to America First.
Dr. Seb, great to be with you. Thanks so much for having me. It's an honor.
We had a lot of fun, and you're a real pro. Your assistant, Hannah, who set up the hour-long chat we had for your Insiders Club. You've been dribbling out little clips of it. I love it. It was a fun interview. I completely I bogarted the mic, I think, for an hour. But then your listeners, your viewers got to ask some great questions. You have written a slew of books, and you are outspoken. You guys have got to check out at least The Return of Christendom, a phrase which, we haven't used for about 120 years, which itself tells you something. Let's start with, for those who don't know who you are, why do you do what you do, and what topic, what issue of the day gives you the greatest excitement? Which one do you have the most passion for, Steve?
Yeah, actually, it happened in many respects when I was at Durham University in the UK. My sort of my Hogwarts experience, you know. I was researching for my doctorate studies a field of study known as post-secular studies. We might know them as post-globalist studies.
Doesn't that mean everything? Post-secular, like...
Yeah. It was the most fascinating encounter at the Durham Library. I said, post-secular, aren't we getting more secular? Aren't we getting more globalist? I had no idea what they were saying. So I started reading. I was intrigued. And what they pointed out is that we're actually going through a massive religious renewal in the world like we've never seen. That's Rodney Stark, a Baylor University sociologist. That's his exact words. We may be seeing the single greatest religious renewal the world has ever seen. And it's bringing back a sense of conservative, traditionalist politics that's challenging the globalist world order. I didn't buy it when I first read it, or I thought it was fine for the Middle East and Africa and maybe Russia or something like that, but forget the West. And I'll never forget, it was a few years later, I woke up on June 24th, 2016, and Britain had voted to leave the EU. And I started to see these globalist structures begin to shrink. And what these scholars were saying, it's all part of this same apparatus, is that since the fall of the Soviet Union, more and more populations have been turning away from this globalist, one-size-fits-all sort of structure to life and going back to nation, culture, custom, and tradition. And that's the wave of the future. And I have to tell you, Seb, I started the YouTube channel on November 1st, 2016, because I just felt like I had to share this scholarship with as many people as possible.
And how many followers do you have now, Steve?
Oh, we've got about 750 subs or 750,000 subs.
You've got to check it out. I'm not surprised you mentioned Rodney Stark. We used his book, The Rise of Christianity, to explain the phenomena of how a small few dedicated men can change the world. You've got to check it out. We've got a minute left in this segment, but let me ask you, in this resurgence of faith, it really is the surprising parts of the world. Isn't it Africa and Eastern and Central Europe that are playing a pivotal role?
Absolutely. Just think of what happened in the Soviet Union when it fell. There were only a few thousand churches in the whole of Russia that survived that 70 years of atheism. Today, now they're approaching 40 to 50,000 churches. We're seeing something similar, obviously, in Central Europe. Poland, in 2016, in November, dedicated their entire nation to Jesus Christ in a public mass broadcast on live television to the nation. Viktor Orban's been talking about it in Hungary. The nation of Georgia's returned to a lot of orthodoxy in their public schools. And you're seeing it all over the place. The BJP in India, a rise of Hindu nationalism, you name it. We are seeing nothing less than a return to not just religiosity, but distinctively conservative religiosity, and it's changing the political world order.
All right, we've just scratched the surface. So much more to discuss. This is what gives us energy and hope. Look, we've already won, but it doesn't mean we sit back and we let the forces of darkness take control. Here, we're going to discuss the future of this resurgence of faith across the globe, including here in the United States. Follow him right now, turleytalks.com, Dr. Turley Talks on Twitter. I'm Sebastian Gorka, former strategist to President Trump. This is America First. Sadly, we're living under a Biden-Harris administration. What does it mean for your finances? More debt, more regulation, more money printing, less growth, and higher taxes. The importance of owning physical gold and silver has never been greater. Call the veteran-owned Midas Gold Group today to get their guide to owning bullion and coins. Call 480-360-3000 or go to MidasGoldGroup.com.
Portions of America First are brought to you in part by Salem Now and Church People.
What have you done for the fight today? I know you're listening to Talk Radio. I know you love it. You support Salem, but you can do even more. You know how? Our great buddy, Mike Lindell, that truth teller, they're trying to boycott him. 25 U.S. corporations boycotting his MyPillow products. Stand up to the fascistic cancel culture leftists. Go straight to his website. Buy any of his more than 100 incredible products. Even if you've got one of his pillows, get another one for grandma. His brand new sheepskin slippers are just incredible. My whole family has them. The team here, just whatever it is, support this man. Send a message to the left, and he's going to give you more than 60% off because you're a friend of mine. Go to mypillow.com, promo code GORKA, or call 800-829-8468. That's 800-829-8468. mypillow.com, promo code GORKA. Support Mike Lindell because he is one of us. We are back with our very good friend. He is the author of The Return of Christendom. You've got to check out turleytalks.com, his incredible podcast site. Become an insider. Join today because you'll get access to fun things like an hour-long chat with me that we did last week. Also on Twitter at Dr. Turley Talks. So I'm going to ask, I'm going to enlist you now, Steve, to be my reinforcement on a message I've been trying, not very subtly because it kind of drives me nuts, to send to the people who DM me, send me texts, email, and say, I give up, I've had it, that's enough. And I'm going to play you a little soundbite that I've got on my soundboard here that just, I think, is how we have to behave.
Well, is it time to panic? Let me just tell you, folks, it's never going to be time to panic because we're never going to give up. We're not going to give up on America. I'm not. I don't think most of you are either. America's worth it. America is worth fighting for. America's worth not giving up.
I'm going to expand that great cut from Rush Limbaugh. Rest his soul. God bless you, Rush. I'm going to say, if you're a member of Western civilization, you just don't give up. Hyperbole, or do you concur?
Wow, and you inspired us on Thursday night when you said, if I recall, despair is un-American.
Correct.
And I heard it from a close friend who had listened to the interview and said that was one of the most convicting things he ever heard. Absolutely. Look, scholars have noticed in many respects the secular liberal is in a strange sort of way disappearing off the face of the planet because secular liberals...
Glory be to the Lord. Explain that.
Demographically, they stopped more or less having children. Now, this is a very interesting thesis by Eric Kaufman from the University of London. He's a demographer, a political theorist, and a life scholar. And he calls it the religious shall inherit the earth thesis. It's a fascinating book published in 2013. And he shows that the fertility discrepancy between conservative religionists, say evangelical Christians, conservative Catholics, and the like, is the difference is about 30% with secularists. And so they're having, on average, about 2.5 children. It's the same in Europe as well, which is interesting, which is great news. So you have about 2.5 children per couple among conservative religionists, 1.5 children per couple per seculars, which falls short of the 2.1 replacement level. If you were to take those two populations and even them out, 50% conservative religionists, 50% secular, with just that 30% differential, in one generation, 20 years, that population would be 60-40. In 2 generations, that population would be 75-25. And in 10 generations, 99-1. And what we're finding it's so fascinating is that for conservative religionist families, the children are far more likely to grow up and maintain that faith into adulthood. Amish have 80 to 90% retention rates. The more conservative, the more they retain it into adulthood, and the more conservative, the more children they have. And we're already seeing some of the political ramifications for that. Just back in 2004, Bush had beaten Kerry in states that had a 10% fertility advantage over the blue states that Kerry won. This is the trajectory. We are becoming more and more. They are becoming less and less. Now, I know it gets confusing with the southern border and all that sort of stuff, but nevertheless, you can be sure they are disappearing and we are growing.
It reminds me of that interview on the BBC with an Anglican bishop in the UK, and the interviewer said to the female bishop, of course, what do you say to those who say Anglicans aren't going to church and not having babies? And the bishop said, the female, quote-unquote bishop said, well, we do find that more intelligent people don't have babies. Well, good luck. Good luck filling your churches, bishop. Okay, last minute and a half we have with Dr. Steve Turley. Follow him, turleytalks.com. There's a book out there getting a lot of press amongst conservatives and people of faith called The Benedict Option by Ron Dreher. I spent 13 years in a Benedictine school, from ages 5 to 18. I don't buy it. I love the rule of Benedict. It's a fabulous way to live. But the idea that we're just going to detach ourselves from society and go off into our little enclaves and be religious, we're not going to win like that, Steve. Your response?
Was it Pippin who said to Mary, the fires of Isengard are going to come out for our shire? No one is safe. No, absolutely. Absolutely. I very much appreciate the sentiment. But when all's said and done, we got to think like Václav Havel and Václav Benda did in the 1970s under Soviet Czechoslovakia. We need to build a parallel polis, a parallel civilization. We need to have our banks. We need to have our radio programs. We need to have our own, my heavens, currency with digital crypto coins. You name it. You cannot sequester yourself at a hyper locality and think you're going to be safe. It is a holistic process, and that's fortunately what we're doing, and that's really the most exciting prospect, I think, of the next 4 years.
We didn't rehearse any of that. I had no idea what he was going to say. He was going to say, yeah, the Benedict option, I reviewed it. I writing a blurb to the next edition. I'm so glad he agreed. I'm really frustrated, so frustrated. That was far too short. We got to get you back for a whole hour. We'll do a special. Will you concur, Steve? Will you join us?
I would love it,
right.
Seb. I would.
But before he does, you've all got to read it. It's called The Return of Christendom. Order it now. Go to turleytalks.com and follow him on Twitter at Dr. Turley Talks. God bless you, Steve. Keep shining that torch bright and raise it high. I'm Sebastian Gorka. This is America First on the Salem Radio Network, coming to you from just outside the insalubrious swamp that is Washington, D.C. from the ReliefFactor.com studio.